One, two, three. Hello, this is Pio.
I'm Miguel.
I'm Luis.
I'm Marcus, and we're here to talk about our self-titled EP, 3 years later. Take it away, Andy.
Okay. Hi guys.
Hi, Andy.
How's
Hey, Andy.
everyone?
Hi.
Andy.
We're good.
Hi.
I think
How's
we're good.
quarantine?
It's
Same.
still very much quarantine.
Hmm.
This is the only time I get to dress up.
Oo.
Do you
Wala
have
naman
new
nagbago.
talents na? Do you have new
Wala.
hobbies that developed over quarantine?
Ganun pa rin.
I took
Nag-aana
up-
pa rin.
I took up
Music pa
woodworking.
rin.
Woodworking?
Yeah, but I'm very bad at it, so I stopped. Continue later.
Okay. So, guys, your EP, your debut EP, is 3 years old na. It's been 3 years. How does it feel like to have a 3-year-old
I
baby?
feel old.
I feel like a lot of responsibility having a 3-year-old around the house, and it feels nice to know that our first EP is something that's been there, like, and it's been out there a while for a lot of people to listen to. We kind of feel like it kind of works as a good picture of who we used to be, like as a band and our sound. Like even from the cover, everything about it was the first successful piece of work we were able to put out there. So it's a big thing that it's 3 years old now.
Yeah, I agree. Kasi parang going back into it na parang 3 taon na pala yun pinagagawa namin. And I guess it was just a really nice stepping stone to really jumpstart, what we're really doing. And hopefully in the next succeeding EPs, we get to flesh out even more than what we did in the first one. But, looking back, 3 years, parang grabe. Tagal na pala nun.
Yeah.
Tagal na pala nun. But it still feels like, it's been parang kahapon lang in a sense na parang we still play the songs, we still see people or hear about people, maybe even tweeting sometimes that they're still listening to the songs from the first EP. So it feels great knowing that, what we made is still out there and still being listened to.
I feel that the EP is still very much current kasi yun nga, like what Pio said, that we're still playing these songs and our listeners, they're very familiar with these songs. Tapos these are the songs that they actually really request and have favorites among.
Ikaw, Luis.
I guess like at the end of the day, we're all very excited to develop this identity we've established as a band, especially through the next the next succeeding EPs that we're planning.
So, looking back, like 3 years ago, how was your process like? Has anything like changed, or do you still have the same kind of process when it comes to writing and recording?
Well, generally, it's pretty much still the same process in a sense naman. That's how we're trying to flesh out ideas. But I guess the direction and where we actually want to go to is a lot more solid. As in, recently, we've been writing new songs, and maybe some of our viewers actually have been to those gigs and probably heard, newer songs that are probably a lot more cohesive than the first one. But coming from there, it's still pretty much the same process. Yeah.
We very much enjoy writing in the same room together. It's what bums us the most about the quarantine, that we're not able to be in a room and sit and write. Because the way we've written songs has always been like a very highly collaborative effort, and it's always been something that comes about organically when we're sitting in a room. When we try to put together a song, sometimes we don't even talk, and it just sort of creates its own arrangement. But now, let's say quarantine like this, there's a lot of, we have to change a lot of our habits when it comes to writing. So yeah, I think we're very much used to writing in a specific way, in a specific flow, because we know each other's rhythms. And this is the first time we've had to not do that.
Actually, nakakapanibago
How's that
nga talaga. Hindi, nakakapanibago in a sense na parang kasi pag nasa isang kwarto kasi kayo, parang may feel agad eh. Di ba? Hindi tulad ng katulad ngayon ng ginagawa namin sa panahon nga ng quarantine na to. Parang isip na idea, record mo, tignan mo anong may isip nung kabilang ibang members, tapos biglang medyo siya eh. Di ko naman sasabing pangit, pero sobrang iba siya.
Iba.
Sobrang
Iba yung
iba.
feeling ng solo gaming.
Oo, kasi parang may backing track na sinisense and yun nga, di kami sanay na ganun. Sanay talaga kami na isang kwarto, all the instruments are there, we play something, we go from there. And it just, unfolds itself. Pero ngayon na quarantine, parang we're all playing on backing tracks technically. So we're still really adapting in terms of the creative process.
Did you guys have like one place lang where everything was recorded, or was it palipat-lipat?
We recorded for the first EP. We recorded it entirely in Point B Multimedia. It's in Quezon City. Forgot the street I work there. What's Madasalin? Because of the church. Yung may simbahan. We were very lucky to find that place, and it was through a connection that we had like all throughout since high school pa kasi. Because we started recording actually like late high school, so the EP is kind of emblematic of who we were from the transition between our high school to like our early college selves.
Yeah, you guys have been together since like 2011.
Pretty much.
Question mark?
Pretty much. Pretty much it was 2011.
Yeah, so that's like how long? That's almost 10 years? That's almost 10 years.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Right?
Did you count?
Shut up.
That's almost 10 years, and you released in 2017. So when it comes to songwriting, did all of these songs on the EP, were they all written at the same time, or were there any songs written when you were still in high school, maybe grade school?
Oh, well.
Someone talk about Telescope.
Yeah.
Most of the songs at least were hindi naman siya sabay-sabay ginawa talaga. Like, all throughout nung high school yun na parang, may bagong kanta, yan.
Most of them were done during high school, pero I think it was Heto that was like the latest among the five of them.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
Kasi parang dun, kung pakinggan nyo nga talaga yung EP, parang na-realize nyo, parang itong Heto na naman. That's why it was a single, because parang it's what we really lean to nowadays. Pero yung ibang mga songs, talagang nahalata nyo na may proseso pang pinagdaanan yon. It wasn't really a cohesive thing, more of we put yung process nung paghanap namin ng sound dun sa EP na yun. Kaya kung mapapansin niyo talaga, it's really everything we thought of, and then we just put it in one compilation.
Yeah.
Instead of like what's usually out there that, for example, an artist releases an EP or an album, you hear some cohesiveness. But this first one was just really the process, like ano ba yung nagpasimula dito sa career namin, ano yung mga naisip namin na mga idea. Kaya, ayun.
It's very scrapbooky in nature, which I like, looking back.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go into it. Let's do it track by track. Since we're already talking about Heto, let's start with the first song of the EP.
Alright. Okay.
So how is Heto like looking back now? Do you still like it?
Yeah, very much
Para
so.
sa akin, yun yung pinaka malapit sa direction na pinupuntahan namin ngayon. Like if you choose a track from the old EP, you just look at Heto and that's still them today. It's like the closest thing we have to our sound right now.
I remember Heto like being written after we started our J-rock influence. Because I remember, like, as a band, we collectively started, this is Airfist's fault, we collectively started listening to bands like Gesu, Nokiwame Otome, or like Indigo La End, like, through him. Like, he just played it on a practice once. And I remember that Heto was something we wrote after that, once those influences were sort of, embedded into us. Yeah. And that doesn't leave. That's still very much a part of how we write these days. We can feel it, and that's why we kind of feel like it's the most updated. Well, it's literally the last track we were able to write for that EP.
I still like the song a lot until today. Kasi nga, kung papansin niyo talaga, sobrang for us, or at least for me, when I was writing it, parang iba yung energy na dala niya. And it just clicked. Nung sinulat namin siya, nag-click lang siya na na habang nasa isang kwarto kami parang, okay yan ah. Okay yan. Tapos bilang, yun na. Yun yung ito na naman. And looking back talagang, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of it in a sense na, it's shaped, I guess, what we actually want to be for the rest of what we're gonna do with the band. So, yeah. Until today, it's still, I'm proud of it. Yeah.
It also doesn't stop being very fun to play. At least for me. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like it's the energy as like a drummer. It's really fun to do this whole boots and cats thing, Like it's very fun kind of sort of ska thing going on. So it's fun.
Also very memorable because the one time we played it, yung sa may Under the Stars, dun yung nasuot yung stage.
Ayun ba yun? Oh,
we were playing, ito yung tinutugtog natin nung
sobrang star power ni Pio. Nasunog yung stage.
Tell the story.
Well, so that was Under the Stars. Anong year ba yan?
2016.
Probably 2016. Kasi 2015 tayo na gano'n. So mga 2016, I remember, it was generally one of the first few gigs we had coming into college. Tapos, masaya siya nung simula. Tapos biglang, I think.
It was in the middle of the breakdown before the solo. And then, fire!
So, lang talaga siya eh. Parang habang ready na, we really pumped. We felt like the crowd was already digging it. Tapos biglang, leading into the solo of the song, suddenly blacked out. And then we see fire coming from
si Marcus ata yung... si Marcus yung nakakita eh.
I thought it was some smoke machine thing.
Pero dun siya kasi talaga, as in mismo yung area niya talaga. Parang nasa kanan niya lang yun eh.
Yeah. Biglang, right under
the drums.
Oo.
So why was there a fire? What happened?
Kinukuha na ako ni Satanas. It was raining, and I'm pretty sure it had something to do with the fact that the mud was kind of wet. The
short circuit siguro.
Short circuits, all of that sort of stuff.
Baka nga.
No one got hurt.
No one got hurt. But sobrang naalala ko nung nag-blackout talaga. Nung nag-blackout talaga, parang sobrang, what the hell are we gonna do now? I remember, nung nag-blackout, umupo na lang ako sa stage, parang, what's next? And then, nabawasan talaga yung time namin, and the energies got kind of like, it was just central na dun sa nangyari nga na nagkaroon ng konting sunog. Pero,
look of defeat.
I remember being the one to tell the crowd, like, kasi there's no mics, right? So I remember yelling that the stage was on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, guys! Fire! So, because people were confused, right?
Do you still think about that? Like, when you play live, do you still think about that happening?
No, it's not a fear.
It's not like a
No
story.
naman.
I mean, what are the odds?
We just make a joke out of it. We just make a joke out of it now na star power, mga ganun.
Naalala ko talaga si Mark. Pagkalingan ko sa kanan si Marcus, parang, the stage is on fire! Oh my God! So, hindi namin nag-gets.
That was just something else. Kaya, memorable yun for the song as well. And for our experience then playing one of our first college gigs. You don't get that every day or every gig, and it's pretty bad if that happens. So ayan.
So why did you decide to make Heto the intro track of an EP? Because I know like putting an intro and an outro tracks and making the whole like lineup for an EP is a different kind of process. So why did you pick Heto of all songs?
I think we picked Heto kasi gusto namin energetic agad yung simula. Parang start strong. Pagka-start ng EP, alam na nila na ito yung feel ng EP. So leading into the other songs, parang yung Heto yung nag-establish nung parang kwento nung EP.
Yeah, we didn't want to come off sounding like, we don't want to, because it's our first EP, we don't want to come off sounding too mellow. we wanted to make a statement like right then and there. And Heto was like, hey, this is us. This is us at our full energy. Hello.
Hello. It's me.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
And
All right.
like to also add to that now, siguro, it was the latest thing we made, and it felt closer to what we actually wanted to establish during that time, and for most of what we're doing now. So talagang para lang hindi siya siguro mag-feel na sobrang scrapbook, we probably decided na parang let's put something that defines us at the get-go, and then just make everyone else decide how they feel with the rest of the stuff.
All right. So let's go to your second or first single, the other single of the EP. So let's talk about Telescope. Looking back 3 years from now, when did you write Telescope? Was it 3 years
I remember
ago?
that was I think I wrote this in like third year high school kasi ano ba yun? I wanted to try to write about an experience of another person, and this other person was my classmate in high school. Tapos ano ba to? Para may friend kasi kami, na-crush siya, pero ayaw nung classmate ko sa kanya, parang ganun. So that's set up. So yun nga. Yun yung ginamit kong kwento doon na parang it's a telescope, parang iba-ibang titignan mo, you don't see everything because it's just focused.
I still have
like that.
Fun fact, I still have a poster of one of the first times we played that. We played that at like it was called Flair. It was a school fair natin.
Yeah.
So, the poster hasn't come down yet.
Sila yung background mo, pre.
January 25, 2014. That was
Yeah.
Gusto ko na tuloy tanggalin yung virtual background.
Yeah. So yeah, sakto siya talagang third year high school, wanted to write something about it. And it was really, I'd say one of the most parang very different na from what we are today. But it's certainly a crowd favorite. I think that, just typical Pinoy rock talaga na headbang ng konti lang na ganyan. Hindi naman sobra.
I think it's the most connected to our roots as like a band when it comes to our music, because like of course we were in high school, we grew up on things like Eraserheads, Itchy Worms, a lot of 90s era to 2000s era stuff from local music, and I kind of like the fact that even the way that the chords are structured, it's something very emblematic, like wow, a high school band who really digested the music of the time and really shows what they were going through at the time.
Yeah. I actually want to give a shout out to like yung isa sa mga siguro pinaka nagsimula nung mga inspirations namin when we were in high school. I guess Ashley's Kryptonite played quite a role in that early sound that we were going for, especially for Telescope. Ayun. So usually those bands like that, kasi sila Sage and sila Josh, they were really people we were talking to talaga na kahit siguro tulungan din in a sense, kaya nagkaroon kami ng mga influences from them, and yun nga, that's I guess reminiscent of that Telescope track na yun nga, it sounds like that.
And they were, as for like continuing on Ashley's Kryptonite, they were like always, because they're a year older than us, like as a band, and while we met in grade 6, they were in 7th grade and everything like that. So, they were a big sort of kuya figure on the very earlier stages of it. And, we eventually we're all friends now. And of course, we could not have them play at our EP launch, diba?
Yeah, I remember. They actually kind of, medyo sobrang ganun pa rin, like the way we looked up to them in high school in terms of, especially for the stage, like we never really had much exposure on the stage in high school, not much, or even starting out, and having them guide us through that, parang lang hindi kami mahiya yung stage na yun. Ang laking bagay, and yun nga, dun nga nung EP launch, naalala ko, it was really a show-stopping performance from them, and that's what we really aspired for in our early days, na talagang wag kami mahiya sa ginagawa namin. Yun.
Are we going to mention the anime thing? Because I want to talk about the anime thing.
All right.
Address the
That was
elephant
I-
in the room.
I wash
I'm
my
not-
hands.
No, I'm not. I'm not ashamed of it. I totally own it. I take full responsibility. Also, Airpe has to take full responsibility too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Siguro,
Because I'm like,
actually,
Whose
anong
idea
anime
was it?
yun? Oh, actually, anong anime ulit yun eh?
I never
Ito ba
knew.
natin yung kinuha?
Ikaw, Airf. Ano ba yun?
it's an anime called Golden Time. Tapos, nakalimutan ko na yung full like plot of the anime, but then it involves parang romance anime siya. And we were thinking about placing something during the bridge, during that
Yeah.
part, to put like a sample. And then it just so happens that the content of that scene was very appropriate. Like you can check out the full translation dun sa SoundCloud
Oh,
upload namin lang.
I still very much
Pero,
own it because
yeah.
like, I mean, that was the first song we ever recorded in a proper studio, like for the EP. And like by them, we are going to make a recording. You know, we're going to utilize the tools. We're going to sample shit because like it's different from just playing live. I mean, what would be the point, right? So we're going to sample shit. We're going to use my synth at the time, which was new. It had an organ on it. A track has an organ on it. The track has like synth drums going on it. So we want to come off as like some, you know, a lot of quirk and fun and a lot of stuff that, you know, we have in us, but can't really necessarily do live, right? So
Yeah.
I still own it.
Kumbaga nagpakitang gilas si Marcus sa lahat ng bagong gamit niya nung EP na yun.
It's still very much the same gear. I
Oo.
didn't. It's still here. It's like
The gas
Yeah.
spiral
You
begun.
still like Telescope?
Mhm.
Does it hold up?
I like the song personally.
Ano
It's one
ba?
of my favorite songs to play. I don't know about the other guys here.
I like it. I can like something while acknowledging that our sound necessarily isn't there anymore. You know, it's good to play things that you know that you used to be. Sometimes in
Yeah.
private, our band would practice songs that we had since grade school that nobody will ever hear. Just to know that it's still in our hands and in our heads. You know, it's like that. Telescope is like something we get to experience that with and still play it live.
Oo.
All right.
Well, for me, well, okay lang. Okay lang. Like, I'm proud of the song's success. But playing it live and considering yun nga yung ibang piniplay namin, ako personally parang, I guess it already had its runtime for me. But I'm still proud of its success. And, you know, seeing people, minsan nagugulat nga lang ako pag sa Twitter, minsan nakita mo, shinare nila na, oh, I just discovered this song, ganyan. And usually it's usually that. It's usually that na talagang pinapakinggan ng mga tao. And for that, I'm really grateful for the success it has. You know, ayun.
Which is why we should never stop playing it.
I kind of think it's one of the most hugot culture songs we have.
Yeah. I think that's why
I understand why
siya.
I understand why it resonates.
Kasi ayaw kasi ni Pia ng malungkot eh. Like every time
Oh, yeah.
I give him like mellow, sad feels na chords, and then he changes it up. It becomes like upbeat, energetic, and I'm like, how do you do this?
But gano'n din naman ako sa reverse. Parang, when I write something, it's happy. Pero if I give it to Luis, bilang, paano mo ginagawa malungkot yan? Hindi ko alam. I personally, nahirapan ako magsulat ng mga malungkot na kanta. Ayun.
This is why, like, yung sabi ni Marcus kanina na iba pa rin yung when you're in the same room because you're sharing the energies with each other in real time.
It's supposed to level out when you're in the same room.
So,
Like,
ayun.
yes,
Sobrang,
rises
ako rin.
with the sun.
hirapan talaga ako magsulat
Rise.
ng something sad. Kahit malungkot ako, hirapan ako magsulat ng makanta na malungkot. I don't know.
More telescopes, sir. You need the stories of your friends, sir.
Kung marami magsabi, why not? We'll see how it works out.
All right. Let's go and move on to the middle song right there, line yellow.
Ah, that
Still
was
gets
fun.
a lot of
Ah.
notifs on SoundCloud.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Kasi Line Yellow,
Do you play it a lot live?
not anymore in recent
Mhm.
gigs. Not much.
Because
You
we
know,
have a
I
lot
guess.
of other things we like
Uh,
playing.
and usually we reserve it for
Stop.
we reserve it for like close, more intimate spaces. Because I remember when we played it in one gig, it didn't have the same impact. Diba? Parang,
It's not a big it's not a big room song,
yeah.
because the intro is very, this is trying to touch up on a lot of jazz, a lot of sort of doo-wop influences. Oh, I'm holding a brush for some reason.
How do you get that?
I don't, may, basta. Uh, yeah, so it's not something that registers well in a big room, but like it was our foray into like slower, more romantic stuff, but we couldn't help but write that because I think it's the weirdest one we have on the track, on the EP, if you agree.
Very, very. I think
It starts off slow.
it's as experimental as it gets
Yeah.
with that song. Kasi, yun nga, usually very upbeat. And then we experimented a lot with these movements. The change in tempo was like very, I won't say abrupt, but it's really different. You can distinguish. It feels like it's two different songs in one track.
Personally, the influences, because I want to make a point to like map out influences per song. You guys can do it too, but like my mindset when writing this is the earlier half was a lot of jazz ballads and standards, which is pretty obvious, and the latter half, for me mainly at least, it's very quirky. So that's like a lot of Vampire Weekend. Like I pulled a lot from that, and that's a very high school thing to do, and I had fun doing that.
Yeah.
Hey,
Actually,
guys.
I remember, may kwento yung title niyan. I remember when we made the song, we didn't even like have a title for it. We were just like, it's really nice. And we were on the way to a gig. We were on our way to Route 196 nun.
Emilio.
Oo, naalala ko yun eh. Parang, wala, as in, papunta na kami ng gig, we decided to play it, we still don't have a title for it.
Can I say how we said it?
Oo.
We were in a cramped car with one of our friends from high school. His name's Emilio. Our other friend Alvin was driving, and we had all our stuff, and we didn't know what because they listened to us play and practice. Like we didn't know what to call the song, and then like Emilio was staring at the road, and then he saw the lines on the road, and he was like, line, yellow. That's it.
Ayun. So yung
my
mga
God.
ganong kwento talaga, parang people would probably think nga na parang itong song na to parang wow, line yellow, bakit naman yung line yellow? And then you realize doon talaga namin nakuha. We would just sometimes just say na because it's about trains and stuff, yung mga bago ka pumasok ng tren, di ba? Pero yun yung totoong kwento nun eh. That parang it was just a car ride to a gig, and then yun nangyari.
Don't believe kids who say deep things.
Yeah. It's usually very mundane. Or sobrang sabaw lang talaga.
I remember the first time we typed it out like on SoundCloud was like it was so indie, bro. It was like slash a / yellow and then a space between the word yellow.
Indie, bro, unsearchable content.
Yeah, well,
we were still very, this as quirky as it gets. Tapos we were just trying to be creative, and we had that. But generally, I like the song. I really like the song because it was very different for what we were going for, and it still felt cohesive in a way, as in personally speaking. Ayun. And songwriting wise, the lyrics, I guess si Marcus and I collaborated with that. The first part was mainly inspiration ko kasi galing ako Japan nun eh. Galing ako Japan nun. Tapos naisip ko, why don't I write something about what I'm seeing in Japan? And then that's around nighttime, and then there was actually a lot of Japanese couples around. I don't know if it's a Japanese thing, but there's a lot of couples during I think around April or something like that. And then yun nga, so I saw that, and then ayun, yun yung naisip kong inspiration for it. Ayun. That's why it was just really this story, and that's why it had trains. Kasi di ba, paano ako magsulat ng tungkol sa train dito sa Pilipinas? Di ba? Parang hindi naman siya. So, the setting was really in Japan. The mindset was like, I'm in Japan, there's a story in Japan. So, something like that. Yeah.
They also have yellow lines there by their
Yep.
trains.
Yes. Which
I
is
thought for a second, I thought you guys had the same background.
No, I'm in a different.
You're in Korea.
Yeah.
Oo. Diba?
Ngayon may K-pop influences na rin tayo with the
I'm in-
J-pop.
I'm in Antipolo.
Ayun. So,
Alright.
yeah.
Any other stories about that?
Ano pa ba? I don't really write much in English, so I was pretty proud of that. Because we pulled it off. And usually nga, when we write English songs, si Marcos then for songwriting. So, yeah, it's really a big help having somebody who's more... What's the word?
Ego this.
Exactly.
Indie bro.
Ayan. So, yeah. So,
Okay.
nakaka-proud naman siya na we did something in English and we're actually pretty proud of it. Yeah.
Alright, let's talk about your other English song. The next song.
I'm trying to remember.
Something we have to talk about.
Something about you.
What song?
Yeah.
You
Oh my
forgot
God.
about saying.
That's a nice song kaya. Mga
So, like,
in denial lang kayo na
nice song.
indie kayo eh.
So
Nice
in 2001, The Strokes released. Is this it? I should be right about 2001. I'm sure it was 2001, or was it 2000? Anyway, they released this, and it changed the game and created. Why do I have props?
I don't
It
know.
created a lot of the very emblematic drum beat na like
Yeah.
that's a
Actually,
very
ano ba? Ano bang-
post-Strokes indie drum beat. We love it. It was fun.
actually, yung panahon na uso talaga yung She's only 16. Panahon na She's only 16 yan eh. Oh,
Oh, yeah,
like,
when we
they
were-
were still,
Ano
you
pa rin
know,
nang
stop it,
she's only
Arctic
16?
Monkeys.
like
Arctic
this
Monkeys,
is
The
this
Strokes.
there was early She's only 16 era. Everybody was just really getting into the Strokes.
And Arctic Monkeys.
And alam niyo yun talaga yung panahon na yun. And we were, them being part of that influence na yun nga, we were still finding our sound and everything. That's why I think we went with this concept for Something About You kasi we started listening to a lot of the Strokes because it was the influence and yun nga. Ano ba yan? Kanta ng She's Only 16 na yun.
All the balls.
Amygdala.
That one. No. All of that from their
Actually, their first EP.
their first EP. Yeah.
Yeah.
Their
That
It's
first
the
was such
songs
a
that
big
they
thing.
don't like playing
Anymore.
Yeah, that was a time kasi. That was a time when they were, looked up to in a sense na, we're starting out as bands and then considering them na part sila ng music industry or
almost everybody who dipped their foot into the sound evolved one way or another from it.
Yeah.
So it was a good springboard for many young artists because
Yeah.
they had artists like Arctic Monkeys and the Strokes to look up to, and not even the Strokes play like the old Strokes anymore.
Mhm.
So it was a very of the time sort of thing,
mm-hmm.
and it's fun to look back on again.
Mm-mm.
And I still like listening to it, though it's it's a little played out as a drummer, like personally.
Yeah, nakakatawa naman yung vibe mismo. Like, well, personally, I don't really like playing it anymore, but
When was the last time you played it live?
I don't even remember. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, it's
Since
been
we
a
last
while
played it.
because we
Pwede naman.
more
EP
after
lang.
launch still played it.
Regular circulation.
Ano lang yun, kapag ganun na, I guess we've played too much of the same thing that we usually do. And this is usually the crowd that's just really game for it. Just
Yeah,
play it.
there are
Yeah.
times where the crowd is specifically asking for it
Yeah.
And those are
And
my
then
favorite
Tio
times.
gets sad.
Those are my favorite times because like when we play it, I remember the last thing that happens. For uh, the outro of the song, and then there's a break at the end, and then the entire like Mose just yells, "Do you love me?" It's
Oh yeah, I like
that
that a
really
lot.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
really
I like
brings
that
it
a
home.
lot.
So
Mhm.
that never fails to happen whenever it gets requested. Though it doesn't get requested that much anymore. But like when it did, like after
It
we
was
put
fun
it on
when it lasted.
regulars, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pero, yeah.
Worth it naman.
I think a lot of people still resonate with it kasi it still gives people that happy dance sort of thing. So that's why it gets asked for, even though it's not something that we necessarily as artists stick to at this point.
Oo. Pero
Para
yun.
siyang yung bridge towards the Heto sound eh. If you listen to it again. It's on the way to becoming a Heto. But it hard stopped.
Oo. Parang sa tingin ko parang sumobra tayo, sobrang indie na bilang sige, balik tayo yung konti. And that I think made the
Pull it back.
Yeah, parang we went down the rabbit hole too far.
Jumames
Yeah.
Harden si Pio eh.
I mean, you gotta go experiment. Like when you're really young, you gotta go experiment with whatever what really resonates with you. That's how you know that okay, this isn't for me. I'll pull back.
Oo,
Right?
totoo yan.
A lot of our EP has swatches of that. It has a lot of us going in a direction, which is one of the critiques of it, that it was very potpourri, chop suey, going in a lot of directions, because when you're young you don't really know, or you're not really thinking about
you're just growing
your
up.
musical direction.
Yeah.
You're growing
Yeah.
up, you're doing what you want, you're trying everything, and you have that freedom. So it was fun.
Fun naman.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes
You mentioned
we sometimes
sige,
hear
go
nga
Pio.
from people nga na parang no, you just overhear some people say na what's this band really going for? Ano ba talaga yan? Magaling sila pero di nila kilala kung sino sila. It was a comment that we'd usually receive, from people, or we just hear around. So looking back now, parang
Yeah.
it's not so bad,
Yeah.
Maybe for the time na we would hear parang damn it, parang ba't di ba namin makuha ng maayos yung
Yeah,
sound
the staple comment was
namin?
parang okay to pero parang di nila alam kung ano yung gusto nila maging.
Yeah, yun. And it was sort of like it was a struggle for a time din na talagang ano ba talagang gusto natin mangyari. Sometimes you just sit down in the practice room nga, sisipin namin ano ba talaga, 'di ba? What are we really going for? We can, play so many types of tunes we want. We know we like the songs we start making, but for a time you were really struggling with, ano ba talagang gusto nating mangyari in terms of our direction sa sound. Kasi I remember talking to somebody from the industry, kasi pinakinig kay EP, and then they were like, okay lang siya for a first EP to really have something different, scrapbook style. But eventually, if you really want to, solidify your presence, we have to eventually find who we really are. Diba? Kasi di naman natatanggal sa amin na na-enjoy talaga yung ginagawa namin, na-enjoy namin yung mga kantang ginagawa namin. Kaya nga na siya nare-release eh. Kaya nga siya nagiging kanta ng Alyson. Pero at some point, we just started to keep listening on the music, and then we eventually, found what we really like. And yun.
It used to be like a really dark spot, like on our EP, on a blotch, to look at the EP and listen to it and think na, yeah, we don't know what we're going for. But now, like looking back, I kind of we sort of come to embrace the fact that our EP had that in it, because it was very emblematic of growing up,
Yeah. And
Like-
it was literally us growing up,
Yeah.
Literal
Kasi-
kwento siya.
So
Yun yung kwento.
I think it's better this way, that it has that
Oo.
sort of thing attached to it rather than not.
So you mentioned with Say specifically your influence with bands like The Strokes because it was very off the time. So how is it like with having a group of friends listening to different kinds of music and it influencing the way you're writing? Is that still the case now, or do you focus more on what you're listening to?
Actually, iba-iba kami ng pinapakinggan before. hence the Chop Suey EP. Right? Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I remember,
Totally different.
Yeah, actually, parang naalala ko nga, I'd be listening to Eraserheads, the Beatles, all that stuff. Marcus would be listening to the Strokes or something like that.
Yeah.
Luis would be listening to like metal or
Oh no.
any rock, screamo. That was
Help.
Luis, diba?
And
I have
Airfare was pretty
problems.
Airfare was pretty heavy in the J-rock circles.
Yeah, so
And-
it was just a mix of different influences.
And
Yes.
even now, kasi, we still listen to relatively different things. There's a lot of crossover, of course. But we still listen to relatively different things. I'm very hip-hop and jazz-oriented right now. Luis,
Still like heavy stuff.
yeah, as you,
Yeah.
it's
The
a hair
usual.
length. It's a hair length.
No. No. I think the last time that we had the same playlist was grade 6. When it was
Yeah,
like
that was.
Green
Yeah,
Day,
you can-
and then after that, wala na.
Oh.
Yeah, you can tell them about your K-pop fixation. It's fine.
Oo. Well, right now, yun nga, pinapakinggan ko mga K-pop, kung ano ng K-pop. So, I'm picking off from what they're doing good. And then si Airfe is listening to...
Natugtugan natin yan, Chong.
Parang yung mga Jacko, ganun.
Jaco Pastorius.
Those type of stuff. Mga Prince. Those are what I'm listening to right now.
But I think what's different, because that hasn't changed. We still all listen to a lot of different things. But what I think has changed is that we know ourselves as a group better. Like while our personal influences still vary, this sort of identity we've built up as 4 people, as a group, is more threshed out. So we know what to bring to the table, pulling from our own influence here, and what not to give there. I used to make a mistake a lot of trying to incorporate a lot of swing into our songs. Like I go for like all shit like that. But like, of course, I realized down the line that it's not something that will work for us. So I tend to avoid it now these days, right? And that's part of the experimentation.
Totoo yun.
So we were also told about we were trying to always incorporate those types of elements, but then they don't always seem to work for what we're trying to go for.
Oo.
But
So
when they do,
Yeah.
it sounds nice.
It's a good thing to know now. It's a good thing that at face value we can understand each other's tendencies, and we can understand that this is going to work for us and this isn't. Luis has like 7 drive pedals.
No, I don't.
Pero
Lies.
for the band, he only uses 1.
And it's not even cranked. Man.
It's not even cranked. It's like a very low setting.
It's just a clean
Oh
boost.
my god.
Because he knows who we are, like as a group.
Totoo yun. And siguro having that kind of difference in terms of what we're really listening to in our free time. Parang we incorporate things that we didn't think we can incorporate, and that really makes up for the songs we're making, as in of recent memory. Na we take the good stuff. We take the good stuff from what you're listening to. We put it on the table, see if it works. Instead of really like unifying what we're all listening to and coming up with something unified right away. I guess there's like, may value talaga yun para magkahiwalay kami ng mga pinapakinggan. May mga magandang bagay ka makukuha sa K-pop, sa Jacko stuff, o kaya sa jazz, diba? Or sa metal, not even metal, you'll never know You'll never know what you can get. You just really have to listen to so many things. Diba? Doon ka talaga nakakuha ng idea mo Akala mo parang jazz tsaka metal, parang anong kalokohan yun, diba? There's probably a genre out there that really does that.
Don't make me
Yeah,
Google.
may mga
meron
metal
yan.
kaya na artist na
Broaden
jazz
your
background.
Oo.
Maraming jazz background na mabigat yung...
And inverse din, di ba? Minsan parang may
Baliktad
mga jazz,
naman.
jazz ang background, pero metal siya tumug. So, yun talaga siguro yung magic din ng, a process and what we listen to na parang there's really elements that you can get and then eventually putting it into one song. I mean, I think I can say na identity-wise, parang kuha na namin we know the direction we want to go to. It's just a matter of really putting it in a song, putting it on the track.
It was, although it was very difficult, it was a very difficult reality to face at first that all four of us have like varying musical backgrounds. We kind of turned that into our strength because at this point when we write, we figured that we never try to sound like anybody, other than ourselves, apart from ourselves. Because, if you had a band who were just on one wavelength all the time, like let's say with one specific kind of artist or one specific kind of genre, you'd get, not much variation. You get people who are at risk of copying, So I think we turned that into our strength.
And yun, sa pag-aambag nga ng mga influences na iba-iba, parang we're like, it works. We just really surprise ourselves na parang kahit siguro individually you look at us, we're really listening to very different stuff. And then you zoom in into like how we are as a group, you'll never really notice it. And that I think there's a value there. Kaya ganda, ang galing. Minsan na-amaze lang din ako parang we'd get so many influences from different genres. Kasi it just cooks up together. Yeah.
Okay. So 3 years later, does Say hold up?
No.
I don't think
It's not.
No.
You can say no.
No, it
No.
doesn't. It's something that is part of our past now.
Yeah,
something that
I agree with
brought
that.
us up,
The emotions,
but
Yeah.
stayed down there.
the emotions that are
Lessons were
attached.
learned.
Yeah, the emotions that are attached to it are things that are in the past.
Mm-mm.
And we view it as like of who we were rather than who we are.
So, totoo yan.
And it's important to, that's not going away on our playlists anytime soon. It's important to still have it there.
Mm-mm. I mean, we have a bad habit siguro of like really trashing things when we don't really like them anymore. Like,
Hi.
yeah,
Yep, you do.
yeah, we
Bad
do.
habit to that.
It's a bad
Ano
habit,
ba?
but thinking about it and really, maybe to other people who are actually listening to Alyson, it probably means something to them. And I think we have to just really, think about that in that way. Na parang, even though sometimes the appeal of the song is not really there for us anymore, or it's not even cohesive to what we're going for, I guess, we should still love it because, alam mo yan,
You grew up.
we still made it at the end of the day. And,
Yeah.
You grew up on it. So yeah.
ayun.
All right. So let's move on to the outro song and my personal favorite one. Yay. So let's talk about Duyan. Duyan in particular is an interesting song. For me, it's a standout song.
Oh, how come?
Hi.
please
I don't know. It has a feeling.
She's doing the interview here.
Feeling. Okay. Why are you asking me?
Uno reverse.
Personally, it has a feeling. Like all of your songs in the EP, they bring you to a place. But for me, Duyan's the one that like takes you somewhere else talaga. Well, at least that's for me.
The original version of that song was way faster and sounded very tribal.
It's actually the
or
oldest. Duyan's the oldest.
It's the old
Oh, I know.
ones.
Yeah, because we had a
When did
version
you
of,
write Duyan?
in our post punk rock phase.
Post punk rock thing.
It would
yeah,
have.
that was when it was originally like.
Yeah, it was
written.
like it sounded like dun 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 dun.
Oh, wala lang.
Yeah, but
It was really
eventually,
fast. It was really fast.
yeah. But it would have stayed there if we hadn't. I don't even remember how it turned into this whole slow shuffly thing.
Actually,
I don't remember, but I
I
love
think
that we did.
it was a random thing during practice that you just started playing slower.
mhm. And I think
Yeah.
this is also like when Duyan as a track siguro isa sa mga unang mga kanta na sinubukan namin i-record ng kami lang.
Oh yeah.
Nalanda ko yun eh. Oo,
Audacity.
Ano yun?
Audacity recording
Di, pre.
yung original nun eh. Yung mabilis.
Cellphone sa ilalim ng unan yun, pre.
Oo.
I
That's how old.
remember.
That's how old it is.
Mm-mm.
I'm pretty sure it was first or second year of high school, like
Oo.
the version
Yeah.
0 of it.
Mga
Oh,
second.
wow.
I think second yan.
Lala ko pa yung lunchbox
And-
pa yung amp na ginamit natin nun. Tapos
It was,
yung bass naka-mic up. Kasi wala
We
pa akong
played it.
gamit nun eh.
Walang
That
bass
was-
amp doon.
we
If I
played
wanna,
it during soft night.
we did.
That
Second year.
old.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really
High school. Second year high school.
Actually, now looking
God.
back at it, no, parang ang galing, no? Like, one of the most, yung pinaka-latest song natin, tapos we ended with something, you know, that was the oldest song
Yeah.
pala we had. So, that was-
Yeah.
I remember the first. I now remember the first time we played it at this version was second year sophomore night. El Canta El Sur. The lights were like pink and purple, which is why
Wait, was it fast?
no, it was slow. It was slow.
Was that a slow one, na?
Yeah, it was already the slow one.
Yeah.
What? No
Yeah.
way.
It was. And it was a very a very romantic feel, which was something that kaya pala in my head it's a lot of pink and purple for that song. It's because
That's why
wow.
the next songs were say kasi prom na. Yung
And
ganun.
Ah.
and I like that you said that it was like something that takes you somewhere, because like in my head Duyan is also something that's very visual in nature. That's why
Yeah.
at the start of it we included a beach sample,
Yeah.
waves of crashing waves, because we felt that it was a very transportative experience, like as Duyan, very romantic, very image heavy. Yeah, Duyan nga, having that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, if to keep in line with trying to mention influences, I would say Itchy Worms. Agree?
Ah.
Itchy
At the
Worms.
time,
Yeah.
E-heads.
E-head.
Actually, E-head. I mean, they all fall on the same strand.
That was written before we were corrupted by our weeb. Our weeb.
Ayun. So, ayun. It's actually one of the few songs that I actually like singing. I actually like singing that song when we're playing it live. Like, parang even if it's siguro simple, it's a simple song to sing. There's just something about it that when I sing it, I just really feel it. And it's just really nice.
Yeah.
Ang ano niya, no? Ang homey ng feeling niya.
Yeah.
There is a big reason
Agree.
we decided to end on it, actually. Like, because even live, we like to end this way with Duyan, because it kind of makes a statement that while for our first songs we like making like a lot of punch, a lot of energy, essentially we're not this band that's very aggro or very high energy all the time. We're also, there's a lot of emotion and like nostalgia packed into who we are. So we wanted to end on a note that sort of reflects that feeling. So you don't leave the album. So that you don't leave the EP with a sort of rushed, heart-pumping feeling. More of a relaxed, feel good.
Or cooled down.
Yeah. Taking it home,
Feel
actually.
like a cool-
Take it home. Take it home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So actually, until today, it's still, yun nga, nasa part talaga siya ng mga songs na we still continuously play because iba yung tama niya. I guess one of the simpler ones you ever made. And I remember when we were making it, it just fell naturally. And parang, because it's so simple, that's what makes it great.
It was finely detailed too. I really
Agree.
like how Pio's Ilocano verse there. It was a very personal touch, something that
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that you won't get much else after Pio. So I like those idiosyncrasies that kind of slip into our songs.
Yeah, may
We also-
Japanese yung telescope.
Yeah, we also like to, of course, we
Oh, multi-language.
a trend with our songs is like we like to play with time. We like to change it up. So that happens, and that has happened, and to an extent it still happens here in different to different degrees. But Duyan was a good example of how we feel like we were able to play it very tastefully, actually.
Let's talk about that verse though. The Ilocano verse.
I never
I mean,
understood
like,
it.
Same.
same, but like, it's more of, was there a reason why you put it in Duyan? Did you put it in Duyan, or did it come naturally during the songwriting of that song? Like, you
Well,
wanted.
For me, the appeal of having another language in a song was something there. And aside from the fact nga na, yun nga, ginawa din ng Eraserheads yung dati. Ayun, diba? So, I was, yun nga, lumalabas yung influence doon. And I was like, oh, I know, why don't we try? Why don't we try it on a track na we'll incorporate a different language in our song? We'll
Wait
see
a
what
minute.
the appeal is. Yeah.
I'm
Tuluyan
Ilocano. Wait.
Yeah, I mean,
You didn't understand it?
Baka naubos lang yung lyrics, pre.
It's him. He's the I'm pretty sure this. I'm not sure if this just goes for me, but I'm pretty sure like for everybody who listens to it, it adds to the transportive experience. You know, it doesn't sound like. Well, of course, it doesn't sound like it's coming from Manila. So I like that about the song.
Do you expect any songs like this in the second EP? No?
It's up
We'll
in
see.
the air at this
It's up
point.
in the air.
Possibly.
We're really,
Maybe.
well, at least lyrics-wise, you know, we're experimenting talaga sa area na yun. I mean, we're always open to those kinds of changes. Like, we're not really limiting ourselves na parang, we write a lot of Filipino siguro, pero hindi naman kami nagpapalimit doon na Filipino-English lang, di ba? If it fits in a song, if it really fits in a song, then why not?
He's teasing that he's gonna make a Japanese song.
I would if I could,
Really?
but I can't.
I know, I don't think so. But like, we have these are two FLC minor graduates.
Eventually, it will
Not
happen.
a-
With
Soon.
second
Actually,
voice.
I actually want to make some version of one of our songs in like some completely different language. And naalala ko tuloy yung trip ko nung Cebu, ito nung January. Like, they're really proud of their own, you know, language in their music. Parang pati yung rap, ano talaga, Cebuano talaga yung ano nila. And there's really an appeal. You see the people sing along in their own language, and it hits them differently. You know, being global is not just about, you know, sing it in English. It's about making connections. Diba? Yun naman talaga yung songwriting. The success of a song is if somebody connects to it, whether it's dancing to it, crying to it, laughing to it. Iba eh.
Yeah.
And it must na-achieve mo yun when you really communicate with them in their own language. So it's a dream that I want to really write it in, or maybe one of our songs, we make a Japanese version of it. Or
Speaking of Japanese, yung music culture sa Japan, ibang klase rin eh. Like, you see them setting up in the streets, and then people actually flock to watch like these setups na spontaneous lang with full drums apparently. Or mga suitcase drums no, usually.
Why can't we go out in the streets right now?
You want to get sick, bruh?
Cutting that part out.
The virus. Flag.
Ayun. Pero yun
The
nga.
virus.
The virus.
Like, hopefully, eventually, kung halimbawa, in the future, may talagang fan na gustong i-translate yung kanta namin, ganyan, edi why not? I'm really open to that idea. Yeah.
Alright. So, Duyan, does it hold up?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. For sure.
There are a lot of strong memories attached to that song, and it's not necessarily something that is totally unfamiliar to what we sound like. Though it's not something we're patterning after, you know. It's not something we take a lot of cues from. But I'm sure that in our later songs, you'll see like glimpses of those tendencies in it, you know. Because it's just about the mood that it brings, the kind of homey that comes out when we play it, when we play that song.
So, yun. Galing. We still really appreciate that song a lot. Parang, kung si Something About You, nasa baul siya, ito nasa, naka-glass case naman. Kasi,
Git niya siya ng telescope tsaka Something About You.
Like, kahit alam naming luma siya, hindi kami nagsasawang i-play siya. Parang ganun.
Okay. So, let's talk about the EP as a whole. Do you have any like favorites among the five? Just pick one favorite and why.
Ako telescope po, even if the rest of y'all don't like the song. For me, it's really fun to play like live. It's the most 90s OPM vibing song that we have, like in my opinion. So like whenever we open like a show with that song, I always feel like it's a great way to, like get the crowd going. And para siyang ano ba, parang ang galing niyang maghatak ng tao kasi ang lakas ng dating niya na para siyang pader ng energy na, oh, ito na, start na kami. And then after that, nagsisegue siya into the other songs which are more mellow.
Do you think you like Telescope because you're a guitarist?
I think I like it because it's like one of the heavier songs we have. Actually. I mean, the other songs naman, the other songs in the EP are also heavy. Like Heto can be heavy, but I don't know. It has that Eraserheads feel, eh. Telescope for me. Parang when you hear it, it's like, wow, this is 90s OPM driven, and rinig yung influence KP yun ng Eraserheads and during that time and other other Filipino artists. Stop it! What are you doing?
Sorry.
Dami mong props. What? How this happen? Feeling ko yung Telescope, sentimental siya to me kasi when we recorded it, I only had one guitar that wasn't set up and one pedal. That's it. That's all we needed. And then it's like, and that was the setup before, during high school. Nalala ko yung Battle of the Bands yata nung fourth year. I literally took the pedal out of my pocket, put it on the floor, then plugged the guitar.
Oo, naalala ko.
Yeah.
Naalala ko yan.
It was a...
In your pocket?
Yeah, as in, siya, yung Moore Cruncher na red.
Yeah.
This big.
This small lang. And then, lapag ko lang siya sa floor. And then, guitar na kalawang yung strings, tas hindi pa nasa-set up.
How the times have changed.
Oh my God. And then like, makikita mo yung yung mga kalaban namin, grabe, daming dala. Like, oh my gosh, what's that? And then yun, the downward spiral began from there.
Okay.
Sino next?
Oh, mga walang
Efe.
favorite dyan. Mga walang gusto sa EP.
AF.
Okay, fine. For me, I guess I still pretty much enjoy yung Duyan among the whole EP. Yeah, kasi I guess I would agree with you, Andy, na the song itself, I think na marami siyang pinagdaanan. Like, kami rin, marami kaming pinagdaanan with the song.
I have...
Wait. Natatawa ako.
What?
Wait, natatawa ako. Kasi, nasabi ni Erfe yung Duyan, parang si Pio tsaka Marcos, shit, kinuha.
Shit, kinuha.
Oh no!
I have the same answer.
Tatlong Duyan to. Watch.
Yeah, tatlong Duyan to, I'm sure. I don't know about Pio, pero
Oh my God.
Erf is right there. This has the most memories attached to it. This was the song that stuck around for our growth the longest, and we were able to see it in different stages, and we were able to play it at different times of our life growing up. So yeah, I'm a very sentimental person, so Duyan holds a lot of weight to me, even though it's not the most fun to play. If you had to ask me which was the most fun to play for me, it would be Heto. Like I mentioned before, it just has that kind of energy that I can't get sick of playing.
Yeah.
But Duyon has that raw emotion that that's probably gonna stick with me and probably sticks with me to this day.
Yeah. Siguro,
Okay.
well, para rin, I like Duyan a lot. Pero siguro rin para may iba, diba? I go with Heto na naman. I go with that song. Kasi, I don't know, it was
Woo!
nah, man. It was more of like, I didn't think I'd be able to write something like it. Like something that energetic, arrangement-wise, parang kaya pala namin yun. And it really became, I guess, I would say the most challenging one, but the most exciting song we've made, in my opinion. Kasi aside from, we really didn't, think na we pull off this kind of energy that we can and really do all that feel and the way we play it. Parang I like it a lot. And it's reminiscent nga rin talaga of what we're trying to really go for later on. So for me, siguro heto na naman.
So now, 3 years later, you're all grown up, and you've mentioned a lot about how your sound is changing, a lot of things are changing. What do you think you would have changed with the EP?
Ako siguro the gear we use, I guess, but like nothing much on the songs, like how we wrote it, how we performed it. Like there's a value in it being the way it was. And I guess yun nga, feeling ko kung mas naging seryoso kami with the gears we pick, actually taking time to really set our instruments up. Because we didn't really think about that during that time. Feeling ko yun lang naman, like the way we produced it, the quality we entered into, and we should have been more set in a way na we actually did a pre-production, we actually talked about how we actually wanted it to come together, even if it's like scrapbook yung kanyang concept. Pero aside from that, at its very base, I'm fine with it being the way it is. Yeah.
Ako siguro more of yung recording and mixing style. I think Marcos mentioned this to me dati na iba na kasi yung gusto naming pegs ngayon. Kasi ano yun, Marcos, like it was a safe mix or something like that.
Well, we were very young and had our first experience into the studio.
Yeah.
So it was mixed in a way that had very minimal input from us because we just didn't have any frame preference for it. So it was a very safe mix that ironically kind of reflected the style because again, we didn't really have a very cohesive vision for what we wanted. So therefore the mix was something that while very good, didn't say anything about, our music because we didn't have that input. So what I think Luis is saying now is that we know, and even Pio, so like we kind of needed to go through that to know, right?
Yeah.
And it's good.
I agree with
I
all
still
of
have
their
an
points,
answer.
and I think that I guess we're in agreement naman that each of the songs have their own place in the EP, and we wouldn't really change like the EP itself. More on yung parang behind the scenes, like recording and then technical stuff that us as a band needed to learn during that whole recording process of the first EP.
And past the technical stuff and past the stuff about our writing and recording, if I actually had to change one thing, it would be more behind the scenes stuff. In that, I would have preferred to not have worried about it too much when we were there, because when we were writing it, we were very concerned. We're young, very concerned about the public image, very concerned about what this album says about us and what these songs, how these are going to reflect on other people, how people are going to like it. There were a lot of worries. But, looking back, creating an EP was a very personal experience, and I wish that for the times I was caught up in how other people would have thought about it, I would exchange that for remembering that this is something that, that digs deep into who you are or who we are as a band. It's a very introspective thing, and I like that. I like to think that we have that moving forward. That we're less concerned about who we are, who we are to other people, but like looking inward.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It was fun looking back, even despite the fact that we didn't exactly know what we wanted to do.
And,
we were still a band doing shit in like high school and college, and that was
patience.
great. That was great fun, That was that kind of keyed in what kind of experience we'd have for the rest of our schooling life.
Ako sobrang thankful ako sa patience ng sound engineers natin. Na parang, oh my God, di nila alam ginagawa nila pero okay lang.
Okay, so you launched your EP at most. Let's talk about that a little bit before we end. So how was that like? Like, why did you pick most? You had a really good lineup with a lot of older and younger bands that, if I'm not mistaken, they're all from AHS, more or less,
More or less.
probably
Who was
most,
in our?
if not all.
Can you guys recall who was in our
Mon-
lineup?
Mondays at
You
4,
had Mondays, Ashley's,
Ashley.
Handsome,
Yeah.
Handsome,
Perky,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Perky.
Yeah.
Perky.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
all.
mostly,
Yeah.
mostly,
I
mostly,
can remember.
most if
Yeah.
not all.
All.
Everyone, everyone
Yeah.
there, everyone in those bands were people we knew from high school.
Mhm.
Mm.
As early as high school, we knew these people.
Was that like
Um,
a decision talaga that you'll get people from high school, people you know?
I think so. Kasi the EP is, it represents who we were during high school, transitioning to college. So it made sense to get the people who influenced our sound throughout those years. Kaya if you
And-
notice yung mga banda, para silang naka-timeline pababa.
and it's
Oh,
a party,
yeah.
man. It's like we're getting our friends. It's a party.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So it was great fun having like a very because during our EP launch, it was a collection of people who knew us and people who didn't know us all mixed together. So it just felt like one big celebration of friends and friends of friends. And that's the best part about pulling an EP launch. It's like a whole room of
Yeah.
very connected people.
So why most?
Well, honestly, it was what we can afford. I mean, like
Hello?
honestly speaking,
You are young.
it was the place
Yeah.
that was aside from it, yun nga, affordable for what we can reach. It was also where we pretty much played a lot and grew a lot as a gig venue, more than let's say Mo's or Mo's, Root or Sagihod. Mo's was really the place where we had a lot of our opportunities leading into that EP launch. And because of that, parang there's this home feeling, even when Mo's was just this bodega that was just really small.
Yeah.
Ever
Before
since
the
nakapunta
pandemic.
namin yun. Oo.
It was
As in,
very small.
it has that sentimental value as well for the band because it reminded us na, this is where we started to really get some traction into the opportunities we have now. So picking it in terms of, aside from the economic side of it, but its value to us bilang isang banda nga and our experiences. Nandun lahat eh. And even the people we really wanted to be there, really wanted there were, you know, very close to the area. So it just made sense. It just made sense to, put it there where everyone can go, where musicians grew. And ayun, that's, I guess, the ultimate um, deciding factor, aside from the fact that it was economically wise
Viable.
for us.
And
I
it's
really like
still
playing
home. Like even now,
Yeah.
it's still home. We still love it as much, or maybe even more than we did years ago. I mean, it's very close to where Pia and Luis live right now. We're rooting for it, even amongst the pandemic. We
Stop
hope.
giving that
we wish for
info,
its
sir.
success.
Well, yeah, and ano rin, parang na-feel ko rin na while we were also growing as musicians, Mose also grew up. Literally expanding from that small room to at least like a decent basement where there can be proper chairs and an actual stage.
I did my
So,
thesis there.
ayun, diba? So it just really holds a lot of weight for us, also individually and as a band. Mo's was a really homey place, and we really felt that alongside its growth, it also helped not just maybe us na nagsastart pa lang nung mga time na yun. Talagang even up to before the pandemic, even the smallest artists, most independent artists always played there. It was always a go-to place. That's why it holds some cultural value for us and many other musicians kasi may something about it, even if it's just some bodega,
It's a dive bar, man.
Oh,
A literal dive.
Ayun, di ba? May appeal talaga siya na it just grows on you. It grew on us. That's why we still
Yeah.
like that place a lot.
Basement of a
I think
Chinese restaurant.
what I also like about Most is that there's a stage, but you're still on the same level as the crowd, like
Yeah.
physically, which makes it even more homey. It makes it more intimate. Even if you're playing alongside like bigger bands, you're still literally on the same floor. You know.
Space-wise.
I remember when Moe's was small. We had one of our earliest gigs there had Cheats on the same lineup. Like imagine being fresh out of high school and playing alongside Cheats, and then listening to Cheats and like watching them play, and like they're like 2 feet away from you, right? So it's like, as a kid, that's a big thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a very cramped space, but I think it benefited from the fact that it started out very cramped.
Yeah.
Thank God na we were before the
All right.
Europe.
Okay. So let's wrap up. Do you have any other highlights from that EP launch that you want to talk about?
Yeah, it was the longest set we ever played, and in my opinion, one of the best. Because we really worked hard to put together that 11 or 10 song lineup.
May
And-
four-man vocals pang nalalaman.
4-man vocals. We were able to play songs that are, were our B-sides and probably, won't be playing ever again. It was great fun. We were able to play our favorite covers. I remember we had a lot of Arctic Monkeys. Like I think we had 2 or 3 Arctic Monkey songs.
What?
in that-
Really? Those three?
Two.
Oh
Dalawa.
my God.
Two. We had A Certain Romance and
Don't
Hellcat.
need to mention that.
That was fun. It was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah. I mean, we rarely do that. So it had its own appeal.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So
We're not a big fan of doing covers because
Yeah.
like we have a hard time agreeing on what to cover.
and yeah,
We have a hard
aside
time playing covers.
Yeah. Well, aside from that, long ass set, and I remember, practicing almost every week, leading to that EP launch. Like, kahit busy kami nun talaga with our schoolworks, we really had to find time. Kasi of course, we don't want to EP launch namin, tas pangit ng performance. And I really remember leading to that day na parang, wow, we actually have our own EP launch. We actually selling copies of our EP, and parang the moment we already stepped on the stage and when we all said our goodbyes, parang, it was fulfilling to actually bring out something physical and hearing and seeing people enjoying the music as we made it. And wala, ibang klase siya. Ibang klase siyang pakiramdam talaga.
I feel like it's when we came into our own as performers because I think that the EP launch was one of the last times we ever felt nervous for a gig.
Oh, totoo.
Because I don't remember being nervous on stage after going through a very long set where all eyes are on you and it's like your night. Because you can hide behind the headliners and other gigs. But like this is you, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't remembered a time where we were deathly nervous ever since. So it's a good coming of age story as a performer. And
Alala ko yun, nagme-meditate si Pio sa likod ng moose.
yeah, he used to be nervous. We all used to be nervous. We all used to get nerves.
Usually shut down or you're just like trying to play your parts, but even though that won't really do anything, but it helps you calm down. But now that Marcus brought it up, parang like after that, parang every gig was just really about having fun and doing the best you can to make it a memorable show. And yeah,
there were gigs where one of us would be afterward. There would be gigs with one of us would be late and have to come up. Luis.
Hey, man.
The point is, we weren't nervous. It would happen, but we weren't nervous.
But it was okay.
It was okay.
Chill.
Yeah, like hindi naman parang
Catastrophic.
sobrang pangit.
Yeah. That would have killed us in our younger days, right?
Yeah.
Now this is
you
like
just have fun.
Luis is late. All right, let's just play 2 songs and wait for him to get on stage.
Or parang pag wala pa yung drummer, tapos nagsiset up na. I'm here, guys!
I'm here.
Oh, man.
Hold up.
But of course, kahit nga ganun nangyayari. So, I think na-ingrain na rin siguro, keep it professional, make sure your gear's in check, you're properly tuned all the time.
After those times, yung 1 to 2 times na may na-late kami, we really, really, really had to adjust and a lot buffer times for everyone because Manila traffic is insane.
Yeah.
As
Parang
in,
sobrang
like,
tagal na nga eh. Parang hindi ko na maalala yun. Na may
diba?
ganun palang
Parang,
traffic.
what?
Oo.
Allotted 2 hours. Apparently, 2 hours is not enough.
Mga ganong stuff. So, it happens. It really happens. But, rest assured naman na, when we show up at shows, we give the best we can. Give them
Okay.
time.
All right. So 3 years have passed. You've grown up. A lot has changed. You're more on time. You don't like a few
Talaga?
songs. There's a global pandemic. So what are you guys working on now?
We are currently working on the bones for our second EP. And this is sort of a challenge for us because, like, again, we mentioned before that this is the first time we are writing in, different conditions, very difficult conditions that we're trying our best to work around. But rest assured, we're not gonna end up releasing something that's half-assed. We know what we want. We know what we want to sound like. We know who we are. And the next time you'll hear our music, I'm sure that you guys will understand that too. So we're not gonna be releasing anything half-baked. We're still gonna do our best.
Pero yun nga, for anyone nga na talagang nag-aabang ng ano bang meron sa Alyson, tapos na ba? Hindi. Yun nga, dami namin ginagawa. Totoo lang, masami namin ginagawa for the past weeks to really, lalo na pandemic eh. We actually planned to do all of this naman talaga na within this year, we'd probably finish EP at least. But since the pandemic hit nga, ang daming kailangang isipin, di ba? Hindi nga kami makapag-practice sa isang kwarto, di ba? Malayo yung kung saan kami nagpa-practice. And all of that, we still really had to adjust to this, this whole situation. And rest assured, we're still really working hard on really fleshing out to the best quality nga, sabi nga ni Marcos, yung mga songs na ilalabas namin sa susunod. But for everyone's information, yes, we are gonna release something soon.
We're alive.
Yeah, we're alive. Ayan.
Safe from
What's been helping you guys with making the second EP during the pandemic?
Technology. Wait.
Sige. Anyone?
Who wants to start?
Managerial pressure to make content.
I mean, actually, Luis is right. It's very important, especially in the pandemic, that you have other people who are there to, sort of keep you in check. Because it's very easy to fall into, very bad habits or stagnation if you're just on your own, So, again, I really like how, still a very deeply personal one, where we have each other to keep each other accountable, have other people to work with for a common goal, even in the hardest of conditions. So I think that helped a bunch, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what we learned from the first EP. Nung wala pa kaming calendaring.
We didn't even have anyone who would
literal high school planner. Tapos ito yung date na magla-lunch tayo. Tapos kailangan by this date tapos na. Walang deadlines, walang buffer, walang pre-prod. Oh my gosh.
Well, for now, talaga, the way we're adjusting to it, keep on going. What's really helping us is the managing team. We actually have Andy and Chloe to really keep us in check, having to also, deal with the, I'd say, non-music stuff in a way, because for the longest time, siguro, the reasons why we'd be slowed down was, being, these independent artists nga na talagang we have to do it all on our own. We had to worry about two things at the same time, like our music and the non-music stuff, like releasing things on social media and all that. But having that team has been really helpful to glue us together, especially in this time of the pandemic, and really putting some accountability in terms of gusto namin marating pa rin yung gusto namin marating. 'Di ba? Hangga't merong ganong presence nga, na sabi nga ni Luis kanina na parang really keeping us in check, may planning, may calendar na matino, 'di ba? Having those in checks has been really important for this time of the pandemic for us as a band. And also I think it's just really the sheer drive to keep going. Keep going and just do your best to get to where you want to be. I mean, at least for me personally, the way I see it is pretty much everyone's on a level playing field in terms of being a musician. We don't have gigs, right? We don't have shows, or hindi nga rin masyadong ready yung mga usual na mga palabas na dati parang barriers. Like everyone's online. We have an audience that we can capture. We basically have the tools to really try to make something happen right now. Diba? As maybe some would find it opportunistic, but this is already a time when, as a musician that's really been doing everything from the marketing stuff to the music writing and all of that, this is really a chance for us to really go for it. Diba? Kaya para sa akin, yun yung talagang yung mindset na kailangan namin gawin habang ganito pa yung opportunity na meron. Yun talagang iniisip ko.
And like, growing up, you sort of take for granted the fact that, you're in a band and you can make music and you can meet these people at any time. So there's no sense of urgency when you're, let's say, when you're a school kid, that, okay, this band's going to be here anytime. I'm busy with other stuff, or we all have our own thing that we're working on right now. But it's always going to be there. But now that, we're all working, we all have more responsibilities to own up to now that we're older. It's where you have to incorporate a sense of work into what this band is. Like, a sense of responsibility that you didn't necessarily have when you were younger. Because, again, this pandemic teaches us that this isn't something that we can take for granted, right? The fact that we always thought that we could always be practicing, right? But now we don't have that. So now we're trying to do our best to make up for it.
So EP number 2 is on the way. What can we expect from this?
The old EP was a lot about picking something that you like and running with it. This despite how disconnected those things could be from each other. Because you're young, again, you choose whatever you want. You see what grabs your attention and you try to roll with that motivation. But now we know ourselves better. We have a focused motivation. We know who we are. So that's what you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of, if it was still hazy who we were growing up in the first EP, I want this EP, like we want this EP to be something that shows people that through all of that, like through everything that we've been through, we finally understand who we are,
Yeah, I agree with that. Basta expect, siguro for everyone else watching out there, that the next EP will be probably as definitive as it can be of who we are as a band, who we really want to go forward as, and really showing that other side of Alyson that wasn't in the first EP at all. This next EP will probably be what will cement us as a band, that this is the Alyson sound. This is like when we go back to our career, this is what really jump started what we really are as a unit.
Even in how we're writing right now, like in the old EP, like again, we went through the entire EP and I could mention an influence from each of them and how heavy the presence of those influences are. Here, in the current state of how we're writing this EP, it's kind of hard to pinpoint where the influences are coming from, other than the fact that it's Alyson. It's who we are.
Yeah.
So I don't want this next EP to come off as something as, oh, we're carbon copying this or carbon copying that.
So, are you guys excited for what's to come with your second EP?
Definitely.
Mhm.
We're definitely excited to like really bring
So
out
hype.
this next EP for everyone to really listen to.
All right. So, where can we find your first EP?
So of course, the first EP is still up on Spotify. So if you have your Spotify account, just search Alyson. And of course, since we're doing this video, we'd like to tell you guys that the EP is already available on YouTube. So just go to our channel, Alyson Pinas. And then don't forget to click subscribe and maybe even like this video if you really want to watch any more content related to Alyson. So we'll post a lot of stuff on our channel. Kaya subscribe lang kayo and we'll see you in our next content.